We engage the sonic landscape by recording and listening in movement. As we relay recorded sounds to each other and across our respective urban ecologies, we cue and align and compose with them in a counterpoint of moving and listening. Listening presses movements into new attunements with the audible and into new choreographies. Recording converges with time and the qualities of the audible, opening to new attunements and techniques of listening. Recording and listening in movement links a plurality of sound. Sound in place and in time, into new continuities and convergences. In the moving and listening, fidelity is no longer a capturing of objective sound, but a dance with recordability. Within this dynamism, the recording device becomes an intercessor with which to rehear and re-encounter the listening body in movement. Put otherwise, the process of recording intercedes tendencies of moving and hearing.
I'm driven by the socialization, I'm driven by the challenge.
In emergent listening, there is a synthesis between the immediacy of listening in the present and the inhabited past. Deleuze relates, "The thousands of habits that compose us, our contradictions, thoughts, pretensions, presumptions, satisfactions, fatigues, and variable presents, form the base domain of passive synthesis. So movement becomes audible, both in the movements of the body through space-time and in the dynamics of hearing with the inhabited pastness of the body." What's more, listening while recording opens to indeterminate differentials of hearing and non-hearing. To describe this phenomenon, David Ellison raises the example of the audibility of a buzzing light, which is often only experientially audible in the moment when it stops buzzing. In Ellison's words, we notice what we need or desire to know and negate the perceptibility of that which fails to meet these criteria. Brian Masumi clarifies the conceptual importance of understanding movement as emergent embodiment, and not merely as the displacement of static bodies and positions. Positions can be easily mapped or plotted on a grid, accounting for multiplicity and displacement, but not qualitative transformation. If we take this notion of the transitional body seriously, then the qualities of the recording or of the recorded trace in audible space-time is distinct from the experience of hearing. The issue, then, is not to counterpose movement and stasis in hearing, since hearing is always mobile. Instead, it concerns tracing or mapping emergent listening in movement, space, and time. In the walking through space, the brushing of clothing and of footsteps becomes an audible registration. The consistent pace of walking generates different durations of passing sound, making nearness, loudness, and sound quality hearable relative to the spacing in walking. Space punctuates the interval between steps with offbeats, or fills the interval with approaching sonic tonality. Walking rhythms converge with the hearing of moments of impassioned, patient, difficult, and frustrated speaking, of distant bells ringing and resonating in waves with the wind, of wind tunneling through streets then being punctuated with stillness in the turning around a corner, of carnival troops tunneling the sound of piccolos and snare drums through the streets.
Four 7.564799. Walking alongside. North River breeze. 7.585716. For 7.568477. B-side bank, sunshine, intense. Walking higher. 7.586532. Raised altitude due to passage over. 47.570677. 7.583871. For 7.55926888. Walking aligned with the flow of 7.583892. For 7.56943. Audible 3 stories up. 7.581575.
While walking, the approach of the beautifully distinct swishing sound of nylon sleeves swishing against nylon sides first as a rhythmic offbeat, then the audibility of my own rhythms, woolen sleeves brushing against woolen sides converges with the regular movement of the nylon body briskly swishing from behind, then overtaking the brushing wool. The wheels of suitcases' continuous contact with surfaces articulates their cracks, textures, and densities. The way the rolling wheels register surface texture reminds of knocking on drywall to hear where the wall is hollow. As movements get low to the ground, the registration becomes more nuanced, but the sound dissipates when oncoming traffic closes off the physical space with which I inhabit the listening. Then an attunement to the sound of car engines, belts moving over motors and tires rolling over bridges, the streetcar bending and screeching over the smooth metal rails. Doubling back to hear the movements of crates sliding over the sandy floor of the back of an open van. Repeatedly walking through an automatic sliding door to hear what it sounds like to pass through the door, but also to move over the door's tracks. The sound subtly changes with each recorded iteration of the sliding movements, sometimes raising the recording device to the front side where it brushes over the tracks, and sometimes to the passing through or the powered mechanism at one end. In the listening, a waltz of hearing getting closer, pulling back, sweeping down, then a turning pivot and relifting to hear the closing sliding of the opposite opening.
For 7.556893. Deviate, walking movements, follow passing walkers, the motion of the city. 7.576940.
Then, listening pulls me into following the passing sound of a pair of jeans rubbing against inner thighs, then of a purse, a cable, or paper bag crackling against the thumping force of a walking gait, or the crinkling sound of a hand reaching into a small paper bag in search of a snack.
For 7.567521. Stationary and second floor apartment. Walking.
Into nearly touchable and smellable closeness with textures of the sonic ecology. Felt against the skin.
For 7.567521. Stationary and second floor apartment. 7.576940.
The skin becomes a dynamic membrane with which to register the sonic qualities of air. Intending with these subtle registrations of air pressure in the hearing, one feels the viscosity of air, the way it is stirred, swallowed, and waded through.
living at 52.075211, raised altitude due to passage over 47.570677, 7.583871, 47.5592688, outward bound to 4.325256,
In the dynamic cuing and aligning in the movement of listening,
hearing becomes a process of rendering the body an elastic
gathering of
hearing
the
with the rhythms, refrains,
and qualities of the corporeal. Hearing in movement intensifies the verge of the audible. When hearing becomes multiple and stretches to extend with,
pull on,
and concentrate in the fleeting and emergent sounds of dynamic urban ecologies.
the pathways
of roads and corridors that map and prescribe trajectories through space lose their force of extensive continuity or the authority with which they delineate space and script direction or position within it. Instead, places become viscous
in the
attunement with their sonic consistency. Sounds also become soft, smooth, and fast as they merge space, time, and inhabited memory. Sonic familiarity might congeal into a feeling closeness, firmness, and the tangibility of sound. Whereas sonic disorientation in chaos might activate affects of physical disintegration or dispersal.